Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 216.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
So here's the, I'll say $500,000 question for you. Why does this not exist? I'll rephrase it. Why haven't you done it?
It may already be out there.
You know what? There's Ford, there's Chrysler, there's Chevy, there's General Motors. So why haven't you done it? You think it's the money? You think it's the money is what's stopping you?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. How many of you think it's something other than money? Okay, excellent. I just want to do, how many of you have also been guilty of saying, if I just had the money, I would do X, Y, and Z? Be honest. Okay, excellent. I want to prove something for you for a second. Okay, this is going to take everybody's participation. For just a small second right now, I want you to imagine that you have direct access to, or you know somebody who has access to at least $1 US. Yes, raise your hand. Raise them high. Okay, hold on. Let's look around. No, you got to keep the hand up. Look around. Look around. Okay, so there are people with money, all right? Yes, no, keep them up. Keep your hand up, and I'm going to use real estate for just a small second. Keep your hand up if you've ever purchased at least one rental property and had to rehab it. Excellent. Keep your hand up if you've purchased more than 100 properties. Excellent. Keep your hand up if you've also purchased more than 200 multifamily units. Excellent. And commercial properties. And a cell phone tower. I'm eventually going to get there. Here's my point. There's more money in the supply and demand equation. There is more money in the system than there is experience that knows how to use it. Money is not the issue. There's actually too much of it, and that's part of the problem. The true issue is that not enough people know that what you want to do. Because $50,000 is easy, especially you live in Orange County? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Every time you're in Starbucks, there's at least 50 grand just floating over there. I promise. Some Starbucks, there's $500,000 just every time, depending on the zip code. Because that's just who's in Starbucks. That's their customer. And what you really should do, what I would do if I were you, is can you at least get a page, just the page that goes this far? If you can get to this stage, I think you have enough to go out there and begin to explain. And this is what you have to do. Hopefully, how many of you are picking up that the questions I'm asking her, the process I'm taking her through is the same process you need to do? Yeah, okay, good. I'm hoping that's the case, because otherwise we're going to have to do it all over again. But, boom, this is it. You told me why this business needs to exist, and you seem to have some passion behind it, which I find interesting, especially. But at the same time, you haven't told enough people because you were having trouble sharing the idea here. And have we improved on it at all? That's fine, but now you're excited about it. It's like, maybe I will do this thing, right? But we asked you, you know why, we talked about what, and then the next thing I questioned you on was, well, when is it gonna happen, right? and for those of you that know me, what time is it? Now o'clock. That's the best time, right? That's usually my answer to when is now o'clock. Then comes the who. And when I say who, specifically, do you have the ability to make a site like this? Do you know how to do this yourself? Yeah, okay. And that's fine. This is where the who comes in. This is where other people come in. There are other people who know how to make stuff look pretty. That's what, Jacob's like killer at. He knows how to take my ideas, which come out upside down and sideways, and he rearranges them and he makes them look pretty. That's what he's really good at it. So, and you might need a Jacob in order to take your idea so that they can make something that looks like this, because most people will buy on emotion, and we're hyper visual learners. And we need to see something. The challenge with most of our business is that it's still a concept, and we haven't created any artifact that gives somebody something to touch. They don't have something to touch and feel, so they can't buy. You want to do this the hard way? Have nothing. Just even a website that they can go, look, this is what I'm doing, and their friend can see, ooh, that looks pretty. What is it? I'm telling you, it's very important. But the who here could simply be, you need a web designer who you tell your idea to. This is what I'm trying to do. You give them some, hey, I want something that looks like this, kind of like that. Boom, done. And let them worry about the how. How does that Facebook button get there? How does that sign up with Google? How does that? I have no clue. I let other people who are going to take care of those specific things worry about the how. Like Sandy, I had no clue how to publish a book. This book, without her, would not exist. Why? Because I don't know how to do that. I don't even try. I don't even fake it. I didn't even try to buy an ebook, how to write a book. No, I didn't even go there because it wasn't gonna happen. And did you know how much, here's an interesting fact that I learned. You've seen these UPC codes, right? All the time. When you go to buy a book, you can buy them. You actually buy a code. I'm like, what? I didn't know that. I thought you just you get your ISBN number, you got to buy those. I'm like, man, they just I think I spent way more money on the book than the book could ever possibly bring me back by itself. But then this is when we get into higher levels of marketing and start using tripwires and loss leaders and a whole bunch of other things that are well beyond what we're talking about today. The point is, learn to rely on the who to fill in the gaps you don't have. All you need is the idea, and you've got that. I think the idea you have I think it's solid. I think it's got legs. So you invest? That's a great question. Hold on. I like it. I like it. I did earlier this year. She's right? ABC, baby. Love it. I did earlier this year by a chocolate company because I like chocolate. I have no passion for what you're doing. I don't even want to understand it. I'm just being very clear and direct with you. I just don't even want to understand antique used furnishings. I'm like, okay, that is not it. For that type of investment, it would be something I would do later stages when it's not proven, but already cash flowing. I just didn't care. I don't want to take the ride with you for the equity. That's not something I care about. But that's why, which leads me to the next point. Oftentimes when you're asking people for money, you're missing something that's critical. It's what I call investor identity, period. One of the other reasons I love Shark Tank is because it's a great display and case study in what I call investor identity. For example, if I wanted to talk to anyone on the Shark Tank panel about clothing and branding, who am I going to talk to? Damon. See? We know that that's something he knows and is willing to put money behind. That's his identity. He identifies with that market. He understands that customer. If I wanted to market something to the NBA in any way, shape, or form, see, I didn't even get it out my mouth. Yeah, of course, right? But that's my point. If I had a product, or rephrase, if I had an invention that had heavy manufacturing costs, and all I really needed was great distribution, and I was open to a royalty deal, right? You know what they want. You have an idea. So what does that mean? That means all of us as entrepreneurs have more work to do. We have to go, just like you prospect for customers, and there are some customers who are size 12 and some who are size 14 and some, you got investors who fit into certain categories. And here's the challenge, here's the biggest challenge. Your investors don't even know that. So you have to educate them that they have an investor identity. And you need to help them understand that. Now, what I did to help me and to help my investors, and this is why, what I'm about to share with you is not going to make 100% sense to most of you the first time through. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. But I got to share it with you because it's the number one tool that I've used and that many of the people that I've helped use to raise capital. Without it, it's really, really tough because you don't know how to explain your deal in mathematical terms that makes sense to people that get them to write the check, right? And this is it's the most important thing. It's what we call the profit analysis quadrant. And I think it's on page 253, right? No, I don't know what page it's on. Sandy, help.
Let me check.
Thank you. So it's the profit analysis quadrant. And basically what it does is it separates all business in the areas of profit into 4 different areas. Because there's an area of appreciation, there's an area of depreciation, there's usually an area of amortization, and then there's an area of cash flow. Exactly. And you need to be able to eventually boil your deal after you go to the why, what, when, who, and how page. 269. Thank you. After you go through the why, what, when, who, and how, you need to be able to boil it down to numbers in this. For example, today, we value the business at $100,000. However, after doing our whiz-bang magic, we believe the business will be $1 million. Okay. Now, you can say whatever number, obviously, but you have to have the details to back that up. Depreciation is all about tax benefits, especially for those of you who have something you want to manufacture that requires any sort of physical plant or equipment. You're going to have a lot of that in here for sure. Or for those of you, depending on if you have a, I'll say, social nature to your business, you've seen a lot of these businesses recently that for every shoe purchased will donate a pair of shoes to kids in a third world country, that type of thing. Well, understand that one of the cool things is that capital, there's a type of investor that's the type of deal they're looking for. But if you just skip that, by not starting at why, you don't attract them. They don't know. You have to start with why. You've heard a book by that name too. So, but the tax advantages is really what we're talking about. Amortization, this is typically going to play inside any sort of leverage or loans that you may need from any private equity group or bank. Well, no, you're not a bank. I forgot. I'm sorry. You're just in a suit and look like a banker, man. So, but I know she said something about private equity. So that's why I remember. Depending on the type of leverage or loan that you may get here, there's a profit center here. And then obviously cash flow. Everyone talks about this one. Everyone understands this one. This is that money that's left over at the end of the month or months after payroll and all those other expenses that you have so that you can divvy this up. The cool thing about business is that you don't, when I say a 50-50 deal, you don't have to split all 4 of those quadrants equally. You can give people different benefits based upon what they need at the time. There are some investors who only want steady, predictable streams of income. And quadrant 3, the amortization banking quadrant, that's all they need. And you get to keep 1, 2, and 3. There are some people who don't want any money. And they just give me some growth. Boom, right here. Some people say, I want some growth and some income. Okay, cool. Some people say, you know what, Jay, if you could just save me on my taxes. Okay, cool. And then you get to keep these other sections. The stuff I'm going over right now is some of the most advanced stuff that I do. And I understand that if it's not sinking in 100%, but what I'm trying to share with you, that these benefits split up and divvied up, crossways and all, is what makes the difference and why people begin to see. So what you're saying is, instead of having my money become worth less, instead of having to quote unquote fight inflation or watch my money rot, you're saying that if I put $100,000 in, after you do your magic, that $100,000 will grow to $500,000 over this time period because you're going to go out there, create some jobs and serve some people with your product? Yes. Okay, I'll do that. Does that make sense? And that's the story you have to learn how to tell. In my case, I teach people, and I like people to learn, entrepreneurs to learn how to tell it at Starbucks and be able to write it on a napkin. You think I'm kidding. I've raised more capital at the Starbucks than I ever have doing a fancy business plan, fancy keynote or PowerPoint presentation. I promise you this. So few. Just give me Starbucks and a napkin and I'm in business. You don't need all that other stuff until you're ready to seek out institutional capital. But most people in this room aren't looking for that yet at this stage of their business. They don't even have, any seed rounds or proof of, you've got a long way to go before we get there. I'm trying to get you there, get you somewhere, right? Because it's the small business. Now I'm going to sound like a politician for a second. It's small business that runs America, right? That's really what it is. That's really what it is. And that's us. Those ideas like what Karen has. How many of you have an idea similar, or you have an idea, not necessarily similar, but you have an idea and you're like, I think this could work, right? Now, is there anything different? Do you have more clarity around what you might need to do next in order to make that idea happen? Yeah, that was my goal. Yes.
It's just, I don't know if my idea would apply to what you're teaching. Is awesome stuff.
Go for it.
I don't know if my idea would apply to you.
Would you like to find out?
Yeah. It's
okay.
Because,
go. What's the idea?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like, it's kind of the way in principle is the way Facebook would work. The user would use
Is it you
for
said
free.
Facebook?
Yeah, the way Facebook would work, but the user would use it for free.
Okay.
What I'd like to do is I'd like to create an app where the everyday citizen can
Okay.
go on the app and let's say there's a bill in Congress that's being voted on.
Mm-hmm.
They can kind of get a brief synopsis of it.
Uh-huh.
And they can vote on it themselves. They can see how people all around the country voted on that bill.
Okay.
And they can compare it to how Congress voted on it.
Mm-hmm.
And which Congress people voted yay or nay or whichever way, depending on.
Okay.
And so they can compare, that way they know who to vote out.
Okay, understood. I like the concept, but that's not that. I just want to make sure you're doing that for lead generation, not monetization.
Well, in a way, I mean, because you need to fund it, and the way Facebook does it is through advertising.
That's true, but I just want to try and understand, what is your goal? Is that product meant to be the lead generator, or is that product meant to be monetized? I know Facebook uses advertising. I'm not talking about Facebook. I'm talking about you.
Yeah. So it's just to make more transparency.
Okay, got it. So what you really are telling me now, how many of you? What question am I asking him? Why? Why? I'm asking him why questions so that I can understand what's driving this. It sounds like you don't trust the government.
So people can.
Am I right or am I wrong?
It's so people can get people that they know they can trust in government.
Yeah, yes, I understand, but you don't. You said so. He said so. They can get people that they know they can trust in the government, which means by default that the current government you don't trust. Yes.
They're unpopular. I don't distrust them.
Okay. Here's the point. I love this. This is great.
It's not.
You will fail by not taking a side.
I don't trust a lot of them.
That's great. I need you to say that in your marketing, and every time you're talking to an investor. I don't trust the government, because you know what? There are people with money who don't trust them too.
Exactly.
Okay. Don't get me started. Okay. So what I'm trying to communicate to you is I need all of you to let that why come out. Because if you don't, what ends up happening is it sounds just like another thing. There's no you become a commodity, and that's the worst thing you want to be. That's the worst thing you want to be, especially at the level of investment that you're talking about. I hear your idea, but what's really behind that is I don't trust the government, and you probably don't either. So do you get where I'm coming from? That's the why. Now we have the what. The what is the app. The goal, drive transparency. And then what's the next question? When? Right? and you know the answer. 9:00, exactly. That's usually the answer for me. And then it becomes who's going to program that darn thing? Right? I don't know. But I bet you who in here knows at least one person who has ever made an app? See, your problem solved when you share the idea. Okay? And that person knows how to do everything. You just got to get those things connected. And that's really all I'm saying. And begin to learn to tell that message over and over again. And again, my favorite place, Starbucks.
Yes. If you've been listening for any length of time, you know that you could probably walk into a Starbucks and you have a shot of finding me there because I'm always going all the time. And that's just what I did. I mean, there's a significant portion of deals that have been closed at Starbucks simply because that's typically what I do. I mean, even like right now, we're going through this process of getting more capital for some new deals that we're doing. And guess where? I'm going to be in Starbucks meeting with the individuals, etc. Well, obviously those that are close and nearby. Anyway, the point here is you've probably figured out that we're giving you more of the live event from last time. But there's another small little announcement I want to make sure that everybody knows. If you haven't already, feel free to follow us at CashFlowDiary, at CashFlowDiary on Twitter. Again, at CashFlowDiary on Twitter. We have a number of articles, a number of videos, a number of things that are being distributed and given to those of you following us on Twitter that you probably haven't seen before because you've been listening to the podcast, which is great. But also, we occasionally announce new things, but most importantly, there's a lot of content that's being distributed on a daily basis. It's just sitting there waiting for you to go and get it. Again, at CashFlowDiary on Twitter. Maybe you'll send me a message or something. Let's get back to it.
And you let people know that, hey, this is what I'm doing. Notice the language. This is not what I'm looking to do. This is what I'm doing. Here's where I am headed. Would you like to come? This is what I would like from you if you want to ride this train. Right? That is what you are after. You don't need their participation in any other way at this stage, Mr. Investor. The only thing I need you to do is to write a check. And here's what we're going to do. Here, why, what, when, check, now o'clock, right? Okay? And that's my point. Now, I will also say this for you specifically. I think that's a great free app. I think it's a horrible monetization play. But it will do wonders very well for being able to build a list of politically charged individuals. Does that make sense? I think you're going to have to work on the monetization, figure out how to get them off their phone and into an email list. Once you figure that piece out, I don't know what the monetized product would be, but you definitely have a way to build a list. Really, really cool. And lists of names have value, especially when they're in a very specific area. A list of, 100,000, 1 million people. I have 1 million users that all don't trust the government. Somebody will come to you and figure out a way to help you with that. Okay, that is a positive problem at that point. Make sense? So those are the things that I'm talking about. Can you see the systematic repetitiveness of this process? That's why business is the same. Real estate, I don't really care what it is that you're raising capital for. You've got to learn to tell the story, and it's not so much about the numbers and the paperwork and all that other stuff that you think it is, because there are people who do that, which is usually not you. Your job is to be the visionary, to be the entrepreneur, to make, sorry. I got started. You got me excited. So your job is to be the visionary, to mark out that plan and the path, to show people, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is how many jobs we're going to create. This is the change we're going to make. And yeah, we may only be making change in shoes, but darn on it, we're going to be the best shoe company on the planet. Which one is that?
Tom's.
Anyone else? You have any other? I was thinking Zappos, but okay, whatever. The point is, these names, these people, it's because they put their flag, they put their stake in the ground. Everybody knows. For example, let me just drive this point home one more time. The most important thing you can develop is that investor identity. Know yours, know the company, know the types of investors you're looking for. If I said, what do you expect when you go to Walmart? How many of you have been to Walmart? You know that? Okay. How many of you have been to Target? You've been to Target? How many of you have been to one of my favorite stores? I call them Nordy's, also known as Nordstrom. Yes? Excellent. But when you go to Walmart, what do you expect? Cashiers. Okay. What else? Cheap, right? When I go to Walmart, I expect it to break, whatever it is. And they're pretty good at delivering on that promise. When you go to Target, what do you expect? A clean floor in a Starbucks. That's the difference. Right? Okay. When you go to Nordstrom, what do you expect? Everything. You expect everything, including service, including the clean floor, and some now frou-frou coffee. Not even Starbucks, and the piano guy. Right? You expect that. The point is if I walk into that door, I know exactly what I'm going to get. That means it's easy for me to refer business to Walmart, Target, and Nordstrom because they're so defined on who they serve and how they serve them. I know I can trust that my friend's going to have a similar experience. When you're raising capital, you need to be the same way. Hey, I go to Karen because you know what? When I do deals with her, what she does is she likes to take a small pot of money and make it grow larger. Is that what you want? Yeah. Well, then you need to talk to Karen. Well, the name of my company is CashFlowDiary. Guess which one of those quadrants we focus on, right? So that's what we do, is we develop streams of cash flow using assets. It just happens to be real estate related assets. But you heard me say earlier, I bought a chocolate company. Did I buy it just because I like chocolate? No, but I do like a lot of chocolate. I really do. But, what's that? 49% of the reason. 40, right. It was very strong. My wife likes chocolate too. So he had us halfway there, because if your investor was allergic to chocolate, was that going to work? Probably not, right? You need to know these things. The point is, that's a cash flow play. That's what I see that as. We've got to build the asset and then sell chocolate. How many of you like chocolate? Exactly. That's my point. And it's easier to sell you chocolate than it is a house. I love it. Sorry, I get excited. The point is, it's the same. It's the same, right? But you've got to be clear on your investor identity. People need to know when they sit down with you, this is what I'm going to get. This is the types of deals that I do. This is what I focus on. They do care about what the product and the service is, but not as much as you and not as much as you think they need to. Okay? That's really, really important to say. At the end of the day, your ideas we've proven some ideas and I've given some tweaks to some, but I've asked them all the same types of questions in the same order because the process is the same. And then you've got to learn to regurgitate and repeat your own process to other people when you're sitting down with them. Here's why I'm in business. This is what we're looking to do. We're win now. I'm looking for you to do X, Y, and Z, contribute these funds so that we can go do that. And then you got to learn how to ask them. Actually ask them. Regardless of the number of zeros, I don't really care. The process is still the same. Questions? Yep.
How do you determine the different kinds of investors from just meeting people?
Correct. How do I determine the different kinds of investors from just meeting people? Here's what I've learned to do. I play games with people. That sounded funny, right? But I do. I play games with people. Have you ever heard of a game by the name of CashFlow 101? Yes? How many of you have not? Okay, that's fine. You can, it's something Robert Kiyosaki invented, and I just play CashFlow 101, Amazon. Like, how many of you, when you go shopping, the first place you go is Amazon? Yeah, see, you know what you're going to get. That I'm just proving the point one more time. But, you know, the retail giant, they just took over. So I use this board game that'll eventually come up, and that's what I do. I play games with people first. I get them to play a board game. During that board game, it teaches concepts of investing and business, and they by how they play the board game tells me what they're interested in. It really does. And then I sit down with them later, and we have our part of our intake process. Come play a game, then you sit down with me at Starbucks. That's really what we do, and what I've managed to teach a lot of other people to do, and it works kind of well for them. So, and in fact, some of them are here today, and you can talk. I didn't know them. Some of them came a long way. I didn't know they were coming, so you could talk to them to see how that works. But that's exactly what I do. Yes. Anyone else? No other questions? How do I find them? How did you find this? Yeah. You just answered the question, by the way. That's exactly how I do it. I create a meetup that says, come play a cash flow game. I wish I was joking, because some people go, that's too simple. But that's really what I do. I've played this game. I've taught thousands of people to play this game in many different countries. I've done it on cruise ships. The largest game that I've done is 180 people at a time. Got $1 million out of that room, too. It's pretty awesome. Anyone else? Yeah.
What did you offer your very first investor?
My very first investor?
After you with all the episode you went through?
Yep, 5149. My very first investor, he got a 5149 deal on a 12-unit building. He put up 100% of the capital. I did everything else. Actually, it turned out to be 24 plus 36 is what, 60? So he ended up going in with me on 60 units total at the end of the day, but it started with a 12-unit building. $250,000. 5149.
That was your first deal?
Yes.
$40 million.
He said with my first investor, yeah. That's. I mean, if you're going to raise capital, make it worthwhile. Don't go raise 10 grand. You're going to do the same work, and that 10 grand person is going to bug you a lot, and you're going to wish they gave you an extra zero at the end of the day. I'm just saying. Yes.
You know, when you go out looking for an investor,
Yeah.
in my opinions only,
Uh-huh.
most investors like I talk to, they want something big. You know, you have a business that worth $100,000, they're not more likely they're not interested. But
Sure.
if you find people with less money who can and not invest in the millions, then they tend to want too much in return. What's your
Got it. So you're in this. Here's the challenge. People do want something big. You are correct. Here's the challenge. If you're willing to accept responsibility for it, the issue is that you've cast too small of a vision. It's easier for me to go find capital for a 219-unit apartment building that's, how many units was that? I think it was like $3 million. That's easier than try to find money for a $50,000 single-family house, because it's a bigger vision. And if you aren't the entrepreneur that's willing to grow the vision that big, then that's probably why you're not saying that story. Like I said, we said lemonade stand. Hey, I need you to invest in my lemonade stand. Now, when I just said it that way, that sounds like, what? You need what, $10 bill? I don't understand. But if I said, yeah, I need you to invest in my lemonade stand because we're looking to average about 1 million gallons of lemonade every weekend, suddenly, when I said 1 million gallons of lemonade every weekend, you suddenly like, wow, lemonade's a great business. And that's the difference.
So are you saying that in my projection, I should project the maximum, the most potential, and not the realistic number?
You should tell me the vision of what you want to do. I need to know where this puppy is going. Because if I'm a growth investor, which is probably what it sounds like to me you're talking to, if I'm a growth investor, I need to know because I've got choices in theory. If I'm going to put my 100 grand here, remember, all I care is about the system. I'm going to put 100 grand here and 100 grand here. Where's it going to grow? Well, this guy's saying he can take my 100 grand and take it to 200. This guy's saying he can take my 100 grand and take it to $1 million. So talk to me about the $1 million. Does that make sense? Especially when time frames are the same. So if you've got to lay out the vision. It's not just about the numbers. You got to tell them, here's where we are. And I understand, Mr. Investor, this might be a little bit smaller than the numbers you were hoping for. You probably want to write those words down word for word. However, here's where we're headed. And this is the stage you're at. Because the stage you are here, you're going to get this valuation on your money. As we go further and raise more capital, obviously they're going to get a worse valuation than what you've got because we've taken those risks already, and you'll be able to grow along with me. That's way more plausible than this is what my company's worth and I need, 100 grand. Make sense? It's in the language. It's in the vision. Why, what, when, who, how. Yes?
I just want to, I still can't believe it, that you get investors through playing a game. So a person that
Okay.
played a game with you and you got him to give you $250.
Okay, can I, all right. I'm just going to, I see,
That's why
I understand. And I know you don't believe me.
Personally, I love your website. It's best. I paid the $97. It is awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Here's my point. I did not bring them. I really didn't bring this one, right? Where did you come from? Virginia. So that everybody hears that. I did not know she was going to be here. Okay? But tell them some of the experiences that you've had playing a game with people in Virginia and what has happened because of that.
So we're former clients of Jay's, so he taught us the whole CashFlowDiary concepts, and we didn't believe him at first either. So we got a couple. We actually own 5 games now.
Yes.
Within a matter of 4 months, we actually have 63 people who are in our group, and we have people that come from Maryland, from Washington D.C. We have people who are traveling through, because it's a big travel area that actually come and play with us, and we've actually raised, just through that group alone, $50,000 in the last 4 months. But it's just, it's just through talking to people, telling your story. And this game, I'm telling you, people, they get hooked. This game, it's kind of confusing at the beginning because, this is nothing like you've ever played before, ever. No. But once you get into it, you're absolutely addicted. And that's what draws people and keeps them coming back, as well as telling your story and the why, as Jay puts it. So once you get your why down and you kind of explain your story, people are hooked and they keep coming back. So we just keep growing. So it's really amazing.
Yes.
So when you raise the funds,
yes.
Is it for like one big deal? Or
it just
depends on what you're doing.
Yeah.
I've had people use this technique for movies, music, apps. We were talking apps. I use it for real estate. That's like my way. I don't care I'm just telling you how to go get the money. What you do with it, once you have it, hopefully you got an idea. I don't know, but you.
That's part of your why.
I haven't.
Play the game. This is my.
Suddenly they perk up. They're awake. Where do you find people to play? Okay, how did you find this? How did you find this room? Meetup. So could you post a meetup that says, hey, come play a game with me?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if I get this turnout.
At the beginning, you are correct. You won't get a decent turnout. It's going to take effort, energy to build because people don't write a check to anyone. It's not a transaction. It's actually a relationship. Most people try to treat it as a transaction. If you're trying to treat raising capital as a transaction, then you need to talk to a bank or an institutional lender. And that's not where most of us are in our business. It needs to be a relationship. 1 second, Carla. Karen.
I still can't connect the dots of how you use the game. Get people to do their money.
Got it, I understand. She's like, what am I missing here? You have magic pixie dust. I understand. Okay, first of all, here's the phrase. I love this. Educate. Next time, note to self, guys, we're just going to start with the game and just tell them that. Goodness gracious. Educate to dominate. He or she who educates their marketplace dominates their marketplace. Everything is marketing. And education primarily is the number one marketing tool that most businesses are using today. I take the time to invest with you and teach you simple concepts like ROI, cash on cash return, what cash flow really is, all those types of things that begins to create a relationship. Robert Cialdini wrote a book called Influence. That's called The Hint. Pick it up, read it. One of the things that gives you influence is A, being in a position of authority, i.e. teacher, but most importantly, there's a theory of reciprocity. I've given to you first, and I've given to you what is your most valuable asset? Time. And you came to play cash flow with me, and I gave you 2.5 hours usually of my time and helped you. And then I just asked you at the end, would you like to do this, what you did in the game, in real life? And if the answer is yes, well, cool. Do you think it makes any sense for us to sit down at Starbucks later and talk about it? That's it. I'm done. Ta-da! What?
Someone paid to play the game?
So I have charged people to play the game, yes. And I've also not charged. I've also done charitable events. Like we charged people to come play the game, and we gave all the money to, it was a female wheelchair basketball, they needed uniforms. So cool. I'm creating value. Anytime you create value, you can charge for it.